Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I have some easy craft my stash fall DIYs for you today for some home decor pieces. Let's get started. We're gonna make a banner using these wood banner pieces. They're from my stash, so I don't know where they're from, but you can get them probably at like Hobby Lobby or craft stores. You can find this type of thing. And I am just watering down a light beige paint that was in my stash. Not even sure what shade. I want to say it might be territorial beige, but I just pulled it out because it was a light brown and it was getting low and I'm trying to use stuff up. And I'm watering it down so that you can still see the wood green through it, and works more like a stain than a paint. And I'm brushing it on and then wiping it off. As you can see, it's not really lightening it, but you can see paint coming off onto my paper towel or a rag, and that will just lighten it up a little bit and also just help it dry a lot quicker. And then to put on our banner, this is a smaller banner. You could certainly do more pieces if you wanted. I have some wooden shapes that were originally had holes in them, and I had filled them. I had previously done the other side. You'll see that at some point here. And I am going to use this pretty aqua teal color, and that's because it will match something else we're going to be using in this DIY. I do like some traditional colors when it comes to fall, but I like to switch things up. Sometimes I just do neutral, and sometimes I like to do bold colors. And we're just going to paint 2 of these wooden pumpkins. Hobby Lobby also has cutout shapes. I believe these might be from the Dollar Tree at some point, but these are, I don't know, they've been in my stash, but I know Hobby Lobby has them. And then once that is fully dry, I am going in with just a little bit of antique wax on a stencil brush. I love this stencil brush from the Dollar Tree. And then that paper on the left, all that paint on there is dry. I just use that to dab off paint. As you can see, I'm using very, very little antique wax on my brush, and I'm kind of highlighting the edges. I'm also going in a slight curved motion to create those lines that a pumpkin would naturally have. Put a little extra on the stem. I'm wanting to create some depth and shape to this pumpkin. And then also I wanted to make it a little bit more rustic and not just that super bright blue. I also had these wood leaves. I accidentally said leaves. Wood leaves from my stash. They had, again, previously been used on a project years and years ago. And over time, I just take my things apart and redo them because I like to make content for you guys and I like to change up my decor. So I am going to brush them with a good coat of Mod Podge and use this scrap paper from from Hobby Lobby, and press these on to the leaves and have that dry well. I'm just using a little brayer to press this in. You could also do the iron-on method, although you will see I am going to pull out my iron here in a second, but it's a thicker paper, so wrinkling wasn't really an issue. And then I'm going to use my finger sander to trim off the excess paper. You can see there it was painted on the back. I'm using my scissors to clip into the little points to make this a little bit easier. I'm going to speed this up and not show you all of it, but it's not hard, but it does take a little bit of time, mainly because this shape has so many different details. Otherwise it goes a lot quicker. I didn't want to accidentally break off any of the tips of the leaves. And I'm just sanding down away from the piece so that we're not lifting the paper back up. And I'm just going into all of the little nooks and crannies. You can also use an emery board for this. That works really well. I probably actually should have used that. That might have worked better just because of all of the little spaces here. I'm not sure if the audio is picking up, but I have some wind chimes outside that are going nuts. It is quite windy out. We're not getting any crazy storms, but we are semi near the coast, and there is just, I think, hurricane winds. So my wind chimes have been going crazy all day, actually the last 2 days. So if you're hearing any of that, that is what is happening. Once I got all of the excess paper trimmed up, I did go ahead and throw down some parchment paper and use my heat press to just make sure that this was adhered really well. You can also use a household iron. Just make sure it has no steam, and you can use a like a low heat. It doesn't need to be a high heat. But I'm just making sure that we have full attachment on all of the edges. And then we're going to go ahead and take a good amount of hot glue and just apply these kind of alternating to our banner pieces. I have them lined up next to each other so that I can make sure that the pieces are in the same spot pretty much on each one. Now these wood pieces were pretty much just big enough to fit, but I did make sure at a time that they were going to fit. And so I'm going to attach all 4 of those in their appropriate places. And then I'm going to use, this is, I think it's called like a raffia ribbon, but you could use some jute twine or really anything you wanted to just make little small bows to attach to the top of each of the pumpkins, just for a little detail on them. The leaves were pretty busy with the pattern, and so I just thought this was a cute addition to the pumpkin, and I'm going to attach that with a little bit of hot glue as well. I'm going to use that same ribbon. Like I said, I think it's called raffia ribbon. It's not like easily breakable like raffia, but use anything in your stash. And we're going to start stringing this up. Now I am choosing to thread it starting from the back so that it goes across the top of like the front of the banner. You can do that so that that is in the back if you prefer. Both ways I think look nice. And I'm going to just take some plain natural wood beads from my stash and thread 3 of those in between each banner piece. I'm also going to make sure that I have lots of extra ribbon so that depending on where I decide to use it, I can always trim it down later, but I wanted to make sure that I had plenty of room to work with when it was all said and done. Let me know down in the comments, are you all done decorating for fall? Are you still putting stuff up? I don't decorate for Halloween. I don't do any Halloween videos on this channel because of that. But just curious where you're at in your decorating. Just to show you this, I did put it on my mantle, although it really doesn't look quite right on my mantle because of how the top piece sticks out, but you could hang this anywhere. I've hung these before on like a little roll top desk I have. Lots of different ways to use them, but I love this one. I like the kind of traditional colors here with that pop of that blue, but you can of course do any colors, any patterns. Let me know what you guys think of this one down below. I think it's fun to make little banners for the different seasons. Does anyone else have Dollar Tree calendars in your craft stash? I do, and this one is from 2023, and I am going to use this little barn. This isn't particularly fall, but the colors of it are very pretty for fall. It even has that like teal door on it, so it was just perfect. We are going to cut this out, and I am going to just, I guess fussy cut it, although there's not a lot of details, so this is pretty easy to do. I decided to not leave in the buffalo plaid bottom here, just cut out this barn itself. Recently on my friend Kendra at Late Night Creation on one of her videos, she was decoupaging some rice paper and painted the back and mixed the paint with Mod Podge, and I decided to try that for this piece. So thank you, Kendra. I will have her channel linked. Go ahead and check her out if you somehow don't already watch her. But sometimes it's nice to paint the back of the calendar page so that the grid lines and numbers from the calendar don't come through the picture. And then I also, it's very thin, and I wanted to do the iron-on method for Mod Podge. So I mixed the paint and the glue and the Mod Podge, and we're gonna do that. So we'll get back to that in a second. While that is drying, I have this wood plaque sign from the Dollar Tree. As you can see, I previously used it, and I was deciding, what do I do with this? I like the antique wax, but I feel like it needs to be brighter for what I'm gonna be doing with it. So I am taking some white paint, and I'm doing a rough, messy coat across this because I wanted a little bit of that, antique wax and wood type of look to it, but you do you. I also didn't take the jute twine out. I just painted around it. So do what you want. This is another one of those pieces that you can use the backside where the knots are in the front, and I think that that's also a nice look. Once the paint is fully dry, I am sanding it down to kind of smooth out any paint strokes and all of that, but you can see kind of in this that the word that was below before I started painting it peeked through again. So I was like, okay, I need to sand it a little bit less over that area. So I'm putting in more paint. We will dry it and then sand it again. And I'm emphasizing the edges, and just I wanted to cover up what was previously on there because I'd used this for a project before, but I wanted to have that more rustic look to it. And then I made a complete mess onto my workspace, but that happens a lot. And usually I just vacuum up with my little hand vac, but with something like the paint, it just gets very dusty and blows up everywhere. So I was just showing you, this is what I do. I'm working on a silicone mat, so everything comes right up, but I just gently mist it with either water or a cleaner that I have nearby and clean that with a paper towel, and that keeps all of the dust from kind of getting up in my face. And then I'm using a damp paper towel or a baby wipe here to try to get some paint off of the twine that I had just accidentally got on there. Wasn't super worried about it, but I did get a lot of that off. And then also because I had made a little bit of a mess when painting the back of this, I got a little bit of paint on the front. So I'm gently cleaning that off. It did take a little bit of the color off of the barn, but when you're going for rustic, it doesn't really matter. I wanted to use these word stickers from the Dollar Tree, and so I was just trying to decide placement before I attached the barn. And once I got it to where I needed to, I'm going to take my parchment paper, lay that on top, and go over this with my mini heat press. Once again, you can use a household iron if you'd like, and just make sure that you don't use any steam and you don't need a super hot heat. And this will reactivate that Mod Podge, and it just works great. So also painting it and Mod Podging at the same time worked fantastic. So thanks, Kendra. On the back of this little sticker, there was like a foam sticker piece. One, it wasn't very sticky because it's old and it's been around for a while, but also I just didn't want that like popping up like that. So I peeled that off, and I'm just gonna use some hot glue and attach that above the barn just because I liked that placement. And although I don't believe that thankful has to be a fall/Thanksgiving word only, because we should be thankful and have gratitude all the time, I did think that that helped make this a little bit more fall-like. And I am just also going over it with a little bit, very, very little bit of antique wax that was in my stencil brush from a previous project, and I'm going over the whole piece, even across the barn itself a little bit, just to make everything kind of blend in and look rustic and like everything was supposed to be there. But that's just what I like. You, of course, should do it how you like. I didn't add any bow or florals this time, but I love how this came out. So funny, there's quite a reflection at times over this barn, and I didn't even Mod Podge over it. It was just classy looking. But I love this by itself, or placed in the center of a wreath would also look really pretty. Let me know what you guys think about this one. Do you have some Dollar Tree calendar pages that need to be used up? I wanted to take a quick break in the middle of this video to just say hello. Thank you for being here. I so appreciate it. And if you would help me out by just giving this video a thumbs up, it helps me out a lot. Also, I would love it if you were subscribed to my channel. And if you are subscribed, please turn on the notification bell as well. Even if you have your notification settings set off on your phone, it will still help YouTube put my stuff in front of you, and that helps me out a lot. Also, whether it's me or anybody else you're subscribed to, here's a little tip for you. Go ahead when you hop onto YouTube, if you're on your computer or the television, on the left hand side, or if on your phone, it'll be on the bottom, you will see like home, subscription, shorts, etc. And the default is home, which will sometimes have your subscriptions in it, and sometimes it will not. So if you tap on the subscription, then you should see those that you are subscribed to. YouTube sometimes glitches on us and makes it a little bit challenging for even those that are subscribed to see our videos. So check back. I post weekly. Check your other people that you are subscribed to. Make sure you're not missing any videos. Let's get back to crafting my stash for fall. As I was decorating for fall, I just decided there was some pumpkins I didn't need anymore. And this one, I'm not sure if it came from Walmart or Hobby Lobby or Dollar Tree at some point, but I just decided it was kind of boring, so this would be a good one to make over. And I wanted to try the candle wax trick to get the chippy look. And I was a little skeptical. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if the wax is going to stick to this material. And so it worked overall, but I don't know that it worked because of the wax. So we're going to move on real quick here. I'm going to give this pumpkin one coat of white paint. I am using Waverly chalk paint in white, or Snow White. I'm not really sure which one that was. Now, the idea is that you don't want to go over the wax too much because you don't want to peel up the wax. Again, this ended up working, but I think it's because of the surface I was painting. I was having a hard time getting the wax to like really stick to this. So I've shared this in previous videos. Lots of other YouTubers have the trick with the candle wax. This is not your example for it, but I left that piece in because I did do it. So I am going to give this a coat of paint. Again, I'm trying not to go back and forth over it too much to not pull up the wax, but we're going to cover this whole thing. I'm going to give it a quick dry, mainly on the bottom, so that I could set it down and let it dry. You don't want to use any hot heat because you don't want to melt the wax. So I didn't use a hot heat. Once this was fully dry, I'm just going in with some tape, just like some plastic wrapping tape, like Scotch tape type of thing, and putting that down and peeling it up Now this does work for the candle wax method, but based on where I was getting it to the paint to come up, I think it was just coming up because of this plasticky material that I painted on. Of course, it kept rolling away from me. But either way, it gave me a chippy look. You just kind of, once the tape is covered with paint, replace the tape with a fresh piece and place it down, push it in, lift it up, and you're gonna get this little chippy look. I did make sure to get the top too. I wasn't worried about the bottom. If you want afterwards, you can seal this with either Mod Podge or a wax. I don't think I did, but you know, whatever you want to do. It might chip more while you're decorating, so that is totally your call. I did decide that I wanted to change out the stem or peduncle of my pumpkin, so I have these wood pieces that I believe came from Dollar Tree a long time ago. You can also get similar things at Hobby Lobby or from your backyard. And I'm going to pull out this stem, and then we are going to decide which one to use and attach it with hot glue. Now I've also used small doorknobs or just a scrap piece of wood that you've got in your stash. Use whatever you've got. And I'm just going to use some hot glue. I am going to press pretty hard with this stem to make sure that it lays flush on here, because the pumpkin itself kind of had some give to it and I didn't want it to be popping up. And I almost left it right here because I did like the simplicity of this. But then in my stash, I found these rub-on transfers from the Dollar Tree. Actually, these are in my stash now because my mom gave them to me because she was clearing out her stash as she is downsizing. And I wasn't sure how this was going to work on this, so I just did a couple at first. I didn't do a ton overall, but it worked great. I just used my fingernail to transfer them. You can kind of see when the transfer begins because it changes kind of color from that top carrier sheet. And I just did a few of these. I want to call them like greenery pieces, even though they're just black and white, but they're kind of resembling like leaves or stems or berries or something along those lines. And I just did a few of these on different places of the pumpkin. If you are enjoying this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It is a super easy way to hit that like button and help me out. It lets YouTube know that people are enjoying it and makes them more likely to share it with others. That is all I did for this pumpkin. Simple, but it's nice. Let me know what you guys think. You can do any colors. You could do stencils, the transfers, anything you want. Go through your stash or go through the craft store and let some ideas just come to you. Be creative, but I love how this one came out. It was fun. I didn't add any leaves this time or moss. I don't want all of my projects to be the same. This wood piece came from a garland that had raw wood pieces from Hobby Lobby. They do have it again this year, and I pulled off all of the pieces to make projects with. And then I pulled out my bag of scraps of florals. Now, depending on if you're going out and buying florals or if you're just using what you have, it depends on, I guess, how much this is going to cost you. When I go to decorate, in the bottom of my decor bins is often bits and pieces, florals that have come apart, leaves that I've taken off, whatever, and I just save them all because I like to craft. So I am using a combination of two florals. One of them has two different colors, and I have this green floral as well, which I'm trimming down because it was a little bit taller than the other ones, and I just didn't think that would work. And then I trimmed off the bottom of these pieces where the plastic is, but not too much because you don't want the flower to come apart. And then I'm going to start hot gluing these all over my pumpkin and just making a little sign. This could also be added to like a larger sign or a wreath, but I ended up just making it its own sign. I started out really good. Overall, I like how it came out, but just to give you a couple of thoughts, if you try something like this, and you could do this for any shape, any season, whatever. But at one point I started scrunching my flowers together too much, and I could have gotten away with a lot less florals if I had not done that. And then I decided while I was doing the flowers what I wanted to do for the stem, and I decided to just wrap it with some jute cord. So before I continued on and got all of my flowers in the way, I'm just hot gluing that on and wrapping it around. I put hot glue on the front, kind of tucked it down in the beginning behind some flowers, because the whole flower isn't glued, mainly just like the center of it. So I just tucked that down in there. And then when I got to the top of this, very carefully. Use finger protectors is probably a good idea, but I did not. And just to kind of cover up the whole thing across the top, and just kind of manipulated it. And then in the back, there was a little bit of a gap, and not really so much because of it being seen, but just to help it hold, I put a little bit more hot glue and put a scrap piece of jute across that. And then I continued on, once I had that all trimmed down and taken care of, with adding the flowers. And I just kept going. I wasn't sure if I was going to add some leaves in here, but I didn't. I just did the flowers until I got the desired look, and it was covered nicely. And then I did use a couple of leaves. It was a set of 3, so I cut one of them off. So I just had 2 leaves, and I thought this would be cute at the top. So I hot glued that down in the center, again, kind of just tucking it behind the petals of the flowers, and just kind of zhuzhing it and arranging it until it was all in the right place. And then I decided I wanted to do, I'm putting a couple more flowers in here. I don't always remember what footage I left in here. And then I decided it needed a little bow for the center of the leaves. So I used a scrap piece of jute there. And when I'm doing a smaller one, I often will just crisscross it and then tie it off in the middle with another piece. And that just keeps it from being too bulky. This is a very sloppy, simple, quick, rustic-y bow. And I hot glued that down, but it looked perfect. I love how this came out. And then I wanted to make this piece stand up. So I'm just using some tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree and hot gluing them to the bottom. And I just stand it up to make sure that it's standing at the right angle. If you want it angled back a little bit, that just makes sure that you get it placed where it needs to be. And I love how this one came out. The colors, the fullness of it, it's just different than a lot of pieces that I've made. And I like to just keep things fresh. So let me know what you guys think about this. And just remember, the possibilities are endless just by taking this concept and using different pieces. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and say hello down in the comments. I would greatly appreciate it, and I love to hear from you. If you don't know what to say, just leave me an emoji. I'll have some more videos linked for you, 1 or 2 somewhere around here if you want to check those out. And I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.